Hello, and welcome back to the 1991 Review Channel. At the end of the last episode, realizing what a walking disaster Qin Mu was, the young patriarch decided to have Shan Grand Chancellor keep an eye on him. And so, just as Qin Mu was about to close his door to rest, Shan Grand Chancellor suddenly appeared and announced he would be rooming with him from now on. Not only that, but he also brought along his enormous green buffalo and made himself right at home. The moment he set down his luggage, Shan sent the buffalo out to buy wine. Seeing the prospect of wine, Hulinger happily tagged along. Before long, the two pets were completely drunk and had even become sworn siblings. Meanwhile, Shan Grand Chancellor began an intense session of spilling the tea. He dished out every piece of drama from the Imperial College, from stories about illegitimate children to dating nuns, in such detail that Qin Mu suspected Shan must have been hiding under their beds. The good thing was, Qin Mu just listened quietly without judgment, which only encouraged Shan to spill even more, leaving Qin Mu utterly speechless. After getting his fill of gossiping about others, he shifted to a light heart-to-heart, telling a story about recently meeting his master again. He was a legless old man who could run incredibly fast. Shan couldn't catch up and instead ran into a blind man who loved to duel with poetry and got a beating from him. Hearing this, Qin Mu froze. Legless? A blind man who loves poetry duels? How could they be so similar to his own Grandpa Butcher and Grandpa Blind? The thought made him nostalgic. He stopped drinking with Shan and stood up to practice his blade techniques. The moment the butcher's pig-slicing blade technique was executed, Shan Grand Chancellor was stunned. He also drew his blade, performing the holding the blade, standing alone, gazing upon the 8 desolations move. Qin Mu immediately countered with a single line across the vast expanse. It turned out they shared the same master, the butcher himself. Shan Grand Chancellor was the senior brother, and Qin Mu was the junior brother. After the family reunion, upon learning that Qin Mu was a young divine physician, the Grand Chancellor immediately asked for a way to reattach their master's lower body. Afterward, he watched Qin Mu practice the Imperial Preceptor's sword techniques, rendered speechless by Qin Mu's incredibly solid foundation and unpredictable transformations. To test his junior brother's true strength, the Grand Chancellor sealed his own cultivation down to the same realm. The result? Qin Mu used just a dry wooden branch to execute a single thrust that sent him flying backward, shattering the main door and a large section of the wall. Right at this moment, other scholars, drawn by the commotion, came over to see. Shan Grand Chancellor immediately pretended to shout, intentionally pointing out a fatal flaw on Qin Mu's left shoulder. All the scholars, especially Shan Grand, had their eyes light up upon hearing this, thinking they'd finally found the weakness of the Great Ruin's outcast. But the truth was, it was all an act. The old man explained that he was testing a new teaching method for geniuses, and pointing out the flaw was just part of the test. He also introduced Shan Grand as his own disciple and declared that from now on, Shan Grand must address Qin Mu as martial uncle. Hearing this, Shan Grand was indignant and refused, vowing not to call him that until he was personally defeated by Qin Mu. After the scholars had left, Qin Mu stepped out of his room to head to the Heavenly Records Tower. But as soon as he reached the door, all the scholars of the scholars' residence were blocking his path. Leading them was a young man named Nhan Qinghe, who still hadn't learned his lesson after being beaten by Qin Mu 3 times. This time, confident that he knew Qin Mu's weakness, he was determined to get his revenge, boasting loudly, "Outcasts, your weakness has been exposed by Shan Grand Chancellor. This time, I'll make sure you're beaten from one end of this alley to the other." He had barely finished his sentence when with a loud boom, before Nhan Qinghe could even draw his sword, he was sent flying by a single punch from Qin Mu, sticking to the wall at the far end of the alley in a da, meaning great, shape. The full-scale assault quickly turned into Qin Mu's one-man show. The entire scholar's residence was thoroughly cleaned up. Some were punched into the ground, others were hung on walls, and some were stuck headfirst onto the rooftops. Even Qin Mu, with his formidable roaming sword style, was easily defeated. In a hidden corner, Wei Yong trembled as he saw Shan Grand Chancellor watching with a smug look on his face. The Grand Chancellor revealed that he had intentionally created the flaw to provoke the scholars into action in order to see who could withstand a few of Qin Mu's moves and select talent for his special class. Right then, the duo Yu Qinghong and Lang Nu appeared. Some workers repairing a wall cheered upon seeing Qin Mu's swordsmanship. "The young lad has the air of a grandmaster." She sneered coldly, "Grandmaster, my foot." As soon as the words left her mouth, one person from above controlled dozens of swords in a drill formation, while the other on the ground swung a demonic blade like a whirlwind. They both shouted, "In this narrow alley, we are invincible. Your flaw has been exposed." Qin Mu just smiled faintly. "A pity. I have already refined my vital chi into threads. You are no match for me." With that, he unleashed a pro-max version of the sword drill technique, creating a colossal pillar of swords that easily swatted Lang Nu's demonic blade away. Then he effortlessly combined two sword moves, shattering Qinghong's sword formation and turning her 31 flying swords into a sieve. Finally, Qin Mu used a demonic sound to daze her and, with a gentle shoulder bump, sent her flying into a wall. The wall crumbled, and from inside the room, monk Nhan Qinghe rushed out, his entire body glowing with Buddhist light, boasting loudly, "Senior sister you, let me handle this." "You shouldn't say a monk can't do it. This monk can." Nhan Qinghe unleashed a great Strength 5 platform seal, but the moment it clashed with Qin Mu, it was crushed by an overwhelming force capable of moving mountains and seas. Boom! All the clothes on Nhan Qinghe's body exploded into a flurry of white butterflies, leaving only a single pair of tattered underwear. Qin Mu followed up with another punch, and his last piece of clothing also turned to butterflies. The monk flew backward, face planting into the wall with his butt in the air, and passed out blissfully. The entire scholar's residence fell silent. A trembling Wei Yong stepped out, stammering about enacting justice on behalf of heaven, under the Grand Chancellor's orders. Seeing a friend, Qin Mu went easy on him, and their fight was more like a guidance session. Just as Wei Yong's confidence grew, Qin Mu slightly altered his move, using demonic arts to scare the soul out of him before gently pushing him down. After the cleanup, Shan Grand Chancellor finally appeared to select the most outstanding individuals. Qin Mu, Shen Wanyan, Qin Yu, Wei Yong, Qinghong, and Nhan Qinghe were chosen as the first batch of Imperial College doctoral candidates. Meanwhile, the second Prince Ling Yushu, wanting to separate his sister Ling Yushu from Qin Mu, advised the Grand Chancellor to take her along on the upcoming training expedition. The old man agreed. 2 days later, an imperial edict came down from the emperor, officially appointing Qin Mu as the first doctor of the Imperial College. At the gates of the Imperial College, the expedition was about to begin. The second prince smugly gave his sister instructions, thinking his plan to separate the lovebirds had succeeded perfectly. But at that very moment, Qin Mu came down from the mountain. Shan Grand Chancellor cheered happily. "Everyone's here. Let's set off." The second prince was frozen. It turned out the person the Grand Chancellor had been waiting for was Qin Mu. His entire plan had not only failed, but he had also personally shipped the couple. Ling Yushu, on the other hand, was beaming with joy, looking amusedly at her petrified brother. This training expedition had turned out to be a disguised dating series for the two of them. Don't forget to subscribe to the 1991 Review YouTube channel for the fastest updates on future content. For now, goodbye, and see you all in the next one.